Good afternoon. My name is Gwen Spade, if you haven't met me yet, and I am the chair of the Alternative Service Committee. And thank you for coming out this afternoon. This is our third of 4 town hall meetings. We have one yet Thursday morning over in the Union that begins at, help me out committee, is it 10:30? 10:30. So if you have coworkers that haven't been able to make one yet, please encourage them to attend 10:30 on Thursday over in the Preston room in the Union. Before I get started, we're going to go through a brief PowerPoint, and then we will have ladies here in the back that will have note cards. If you have a question and you prefer not to ask it yourself, you're more than welcome to go write it down, and one of the committee members will ask it for you. There's also a mic here at the front of this table right over here. So if you have a question, if you'd come over there and speak into the mic to ask it so everybody can hear it and can be picked up on the video for those who are unable to attend. We didn't use the mics in the last session, and so I don't know that the quality of the video was quite as good as previously. Okay, first I'd like to thank the committee. We've been working on this project for about 10 months now, and this committee has done a great job of doing a lot of research from a lot of different groups, both KU, because they had already gone to USS, as well as most of the other Board of Regents. All the Board of Regents institutions are researching this at the time being, and those that were ahead of us, we researched what they were planning on submitting as well. So I very much appreciate all the hard work that they've all put into this. Okay, some key issues related to the plan as far as USS. The white papers that we have completed that are on the website are cover compensation, discipline and protection, appeals board, performance appraisal, and recruitment. And they can all be found on the website as well as a draft of the policy and procedure manual. Okay, on compensation, the things that you're going to see that are different from our current system is that we are suggesting that longevity be applied to all USS as it currently is. The state statute prevents anybody that was hired mid-year of 2008, and since then that they do not qualify for longevity, so we're asking that that be reinstated for everybody no matter when their hire date was, and move to a broadband salary plan versus the steps and scales that we have now. And based on the survey that we sent out, the majority wanted some type of merit-based, and so we're going 2/3 across the board, 1/3 merit-based on any salary increases with at least a satisfactory evaluation. So to illustrate this, and there's a much better example online in the white papers, and I'm not sure if it's in the policy and procedure manual or not, but it's definitely in the white papers. So if ESU would approve a 3% pay increase, 2% to all USS receiving satisfactory or better, and then there would be a cap that they would receive no more than 4% of a total increase for any one individual based on merit. So you can actually gain more than a 3%, but you can't gain any more than 1% over what the increase is. Did I say that right, guys? Okay. All right, Civil Service Board. We would develop an ESU appeals board that would be made up of employee state employees. It would be mostly comprised of USS employees, and the recommendation would go to the vice president level for final decision. The items that can be appealed are performance reviews, demotion, and termination. And then a lot of questions surround job security. Dismissals for cause, just as they are now, would be one option, and then layoff and furlough process would be unchanged. So you're really not going to see any change in job security between civil service and USS. Okay, performance appraisal. Currently, there is a mandatory supervisory training, but we would establish a new mandatory performance appraisal training for any supervisor or anyone that completes a performance evaluation on another employee. And there would be a new ESU appraisal form that would be developed that would be specific to ESU rather than the state system that no one likes. Okay, recruitment. Open positions would be posted to the ESU website just as they are now. We would continue to follow the state's Veterans Preference Program. That is not anything that's required of us, but the committee thought that would be a good benefit that we continue to use. And then there would be an employee preference at ESU as well. And then once all the regents know where they're at, we will look at seeing if anybody's interested in doing an employee preference across the regents' institutions. But that is all preliminary based on our vote and then what the other Board of Regents thinks once they get further in the process as well. So why consider USS? Emporia State is given local salary flexibility and control. Unlike now where everything has to go to the state and fit in the state system, that doesn't usually fit ESU the greatest. And then it gives USS a bigger voice in university strategic decision-making processes. So what we're going to do is open it up now for questions. This is a great opportunity to get those questions answered because if you have one, chances are somebody's thought the same thing. But please feel free to use that mic, and all you have to do is press on the button on the front of it until you get a green light on top. And we would, we'll just open it up for questions. And Ray Houck is joining me as well as Judy Anderson and Ray Lauber to help with this process.
What time's the meeting going to begin?
Today,
Yeah.
2:30.
Oh, yeah. I just got here. It's a joke.
But Thursdays is at 10:30 in the Union Preston room.
I didn't know it was on camera.
Come on, folks, you're bound to have some kind of question. You know, the thing is, if you don't ask some questions, Ray Lauber and I have to sing while Judy dances.
Ask questions you don't want me singing.
Yeah, you don't want me to sing. In any event, we're happy to respond to any questions anybody has. I'd like to definitely begin by thanking all the members of the committee. Judy and Ray and I have been ex officio, but they've done so much work related to this and have spent a lot of time working on it, thinking about it, working and talking with some of you about it. So want to thank all of the committee that's here, and again we would just welcome any questions that you have. Kathy?
Well, I do not have a question because all of my questions were answered in the previous meetings, but my concern would be, this would appear to me to be a lot of extra work. And my concern is, how will that be handled with the current workforce in the HR area? It just seems to me like this will be an enormous amount of added paperwork. That it's a concern, not a question, but a concern that I do think would need to be addressed if this goes through.
Yeah, that's not an idle concern, and it's something we've got to got to take into consideration as it moves forward. I think probably a factor to bear in mind is that in the early stage, it will ramp up as it goes, particularly as you look at phasing in a broader-based salary plan, and as you look at the need to do market evaluations that are now or conceptually have been done by Division of Personnel Service in Topeka. But it will build over time. Day one, everything will basically phase in as it is now. So most of it will be in the future. And we'll have to consider. Another factor, though, is that I think in some instances with some of the market considerations, we would probably work with the other schools and have some kind of consortium that might assist in that. Your question's a good one, and it's certainly one that Ray and Judy and I have looked at each other and thought, how are we going to pull this off? We've noticed some other campuses doing it also, so.
And the other campuses have been great about sharing information, and I don't foresee that not continuing in the future. So in that regard, with KU already having moved this direction, K-State and Fort Hays and Pitt State are all moving this direction as well. You know, we can learn from one another and share resources, and that will be a tremendous help, because I believe, are all three of them doing broadband? I know two of the three are, but I think all three are doing broadband. So, and KU already is. So in that regard, it's not like we're having to completely start from scratch. We can take one of their models and tweak it to what fits ESU. And I have a feeling HR probably won't be doing this alone. I'm guessing they're going to ask the committee to continue helping do research in those areas. So I don't think they're going to be going into this alone either. Linda?
Do we know where the money's coming from? Do we have a slush fund set aside somewhere? Because we just got told last week that there was major budget cuts coming down and it was going to hit us hard.
Well, there isn't a major slush fund. That's evident. I think it boils down to what we look at in terms of tuition increases and enrollment increases, both of which would assist in tuition revenues. I think a factor you have to keep in mind related to it is that we can guarantee now that classified employees will get exactly what comes out of the state legislature, and there is no ability to do anything other than what comes out of the legislature. There are no guarantees in terms of the funding that go with university support staff. It's just a matter of we have control over it, we can wrap our arms around it here, and that's really the only guarantee. But let me make it perfectly clear for everyone assembled, there's not a major slush fund. Did I answer your question? Does that help?
One question that's been asked repeatedly is if there can be a pay decrease by moving to USS. And it's in state statute that just by moving to USS there cannot be a decrease in pay. I can't guarantee that you're going to see an increase in pay right now either. But like Ray said, right now, whatever comes out of Topeka in the state legislature is what we're going to get. And as classified, that's how it's going to continue. USS, the university might be able to do something if they have a good year. That's the major difference.
So assuming that the vote would be positive and we would move to USS, what's a timeline for moving through that process of the market studies and completing all of that? Any general idea?
I think the USS employees would be at the table with the Budget and Tuition Committee as we plan for fiscal year 2015, the one that begins in July. I don't think there would be the immediate opportunity for market studies. The time just isn't there. But if we were looking at what kind of salary increase were to occur in 2015, and special emphasis on if, but the USS employees would be at the table alongside the classified employee or the unclassified and faculty, so that they would be considered. Does that help?
One of the things that's been built into both the white papers as well as the policies, particularly around the title management system as well as the pay system, we have about a 2 to 4 year window. And we've built that in just because we know that it's going to take some time to be able to get some things developed. I think it's fair to say that the president has been relatively clear that the pay piece he is not expecting to see take 2 to 4 years. He would like to see that happen faster. So.
I would, and we're clearly happy to stick around and will stick around as long as folks want to talk after we break up formally. So we can continue staring at each other for a while, and are happy to do that too. But if in a minute when we break up, why all 4 of us will still be here. So if you have some questions that you'd like answered or think of items you'd like to discuss, well, we'll sure be here and available to do that.
Did everybody receive their information on how the vote was going to take place? You should have received it both electronically and in your campus mailbox.
And the draft, both the issue papers and the draft manual, as Gwen says, are online, and are, I think, a factor everybody needs to understand is that's what you're formally voting on.
On that performance appraisal piece that's going to be rewritten, who will be in charge of that? Will there be a committee or HR handle that? How will that be?
We've already preliminarily started that process. The subcommittee that has been working on that area has already done some research on what some of the other regions are looking at, as well as what we had prior to this system, and trying to compare and contrast and find some things that we think will ideally work here at ESU. And hopefully it will be much shorter than the current document that we have. I was gonna say, Jackie, how long is that draft so far? Is it 4 pages?
I don't think it's quite that long.
Okay. So considerably shorter than the 12 or 14 that it starts out with before you fill in any of the blanks. We're just hoping to make something that's meaningful to ESU.
And I would mirror what Gwen is saying. The intent of the performance evaluation form is not to be an HR form. It's intended to be something that's going to be useful and beneficial to supervisors and employees alike. One of the benefits that we have in HR is that we have some experience in helping to develop and to coordinate those forms. So it doesn't have to be driven by HR. We can help make sure that we're within some industry best practices. So the good news is that we'll very much rely on the committee to develop the form, and then we'll help kind of make sure that it's structured as well as it can be, so.
And if we have any legal questions, everything goes through legal review with Dr. Kevin Johnson, so that we make sure that we're following any statutes or anything else that we need to make sure that we're following throughout this process. Because there's some things in the white papers, and you'll notice if you look at our policy and procedure manual, it's quite a bit shorter than either one of the other institutions that recently voted. And that's because if something didn't change, we didn't include it in the policy and procedure manual, the draft, because we didn't want to bore you with reading of something that wasn't going to be affected. And if it is included, it may be very slight changes as well. So ours is I think just shy of 20 pages. I think it's 18 or something like that, compared to some of the other Regents universities that are double and triple that. So we try to make it as clean and concise as possible. And it's set up so that it can literally just be copied and pasted into the university policy and procedure manual if it's approved. And it does have to go through the Board of Regents. If the vote is affirmative, the policy and procedure manual does have to go through Board of Regents approval. So that's one more step we have yet, if the vote is affirmative. Any additional questions, concerns, comments? This is your time to voice what's on your mind.
Did you have any email questions this time?
I haven't received any new email questions. I just have the ones that have been asked at the previous meetings, which have already been videotaped with President Sean Rock's input. He unfortunately wasn't able to be here today. He's been at the previous two meetings and plans to be at the meeting on Thursday. He just had a commitment come up that he was unable to move. Okay, well, with that, if you have any questions afterwards, please come down and we'd be more than happy to visit with you. And thank you for coming. And please remind your coworkers, if they haven't been able to make one, to please attend on Thursday morning. Thank you.